Welcome back to the Daily Rift Herald. Today's breaking news is Caps inductee for 2026 Hall of Legends, potentially. We've had some data mined coming out showing that the statue that they're going to change in the top lane, that's the Kai'Sa one for Uzi right now, was potentially Tristana for Caps. And Caps 100% think he deserves it. But the Tristana I'm not too happy about.
Yeah, I think the Tristana is a little bit weird too. I mean, it just depends on what the process is for this whole like developing the skin. Is it Cap's direct decision where he's the only one that decides what skin it is? If it is, then I'm perfectly fine with that. I think there needs to be a little bit more of a, when I think of like the Hall of Legends, I think of like a jersey in the rafters in real sports. And so like if you're number 5 and your number gets retired as number 5, you don't get to pick number 0 because you thought number 0 is cool. It's like this is objectively your number. So I think there should be some type of objective way to decide this, like what's your objective best champion or your most influential champion? What champion did you play the most? But I don't think it's a bad pick if it's coming directly from Caps, and I have no problem with him being the inductee either.
I'm 100% agree with you because I'm also a sports person, so I always think about that as well. Like, how is it compared to traditional sports?
Yeah.
I do like that maybe it is something that he can say that this is something I felt best on, or maybe I've had some of my best outplays. Always think back to Faker, him 1v1 Faker is here. He tries to push him in, he flashes out, gets the kill, jumps out with rocket jump, and it looks really cool. But you think about some of all the other plays he's had.
Yeah.
Silas play, I think it was against EG, if I remember correctly. He's at like 40 health. He Zonius comes out, gets a kill when you think he's going to die. Really cool plays like that. Maybe that's a secondary skin he might have, you know, the one in the Battle Pass that comes out. That's a lot cheaper that I'll probably end up getting. Maybe not the 500 skin, but maybe I'll go for the Battle Pass if it's his for the Silas because I don't have a cool Silas skin yet. Although, it's interesting because what mid players do? Mid players, they got Ahri, Faker first. Yep. Then we have Uzi coming in with Kai'Sa. So mid laners and ADCs are eating good, but then you're going back to mid laners once again. Yeah. And unfortunately, you have to get Tristana. Are you going to play Tristana mid that much if you get the Cap skin? That's $500 that you're potentially spending.
Well, I think the only answer to that is like you mentioned with the secondary skins. I think the secondary skin has to be some type of a hardcore mage or mid laner option for this. The one thing that I think is kind of crazy, like, it's just kind of unlucky, in my opinion, for Caps. Is like, you can't tell me that Caps didn't want LeBlanc to be his champion. But then you think the secondary skin for Faker was LeBlanc. So it's like, true. That's why, in my opinion, I feel like he probably came to Riot and was like, LeBlanc. I mean, LeBlanc's the champion you think of when you think of Caps. It's his most played champion as well. He's had great plays on it throughout his entire career. You can't tell me he didn't go to Riot and be like, this is the champion I want. And they had to be like, well, God, look, we already have a LeBlanc for Faker, so we need to, you know, get some other champions out there so we can make some more money. Yeah, have some variety. So I think that's what I've been personally.
We say variety, though, when there's only been 2 other inductees, and they're both AD carry and mid, and now we're getting an AD carry and potentially mid also.
Yeah.
Maybe Orianna, I think, could have been a good one. That's his, you know, very top. We had the graphic on there a little bit earlier, but that was his most winning champ and as well as his highest played champ as well. I was thinking about second highest played, yeah. I was also thinking about some of the others, but there's been some really good Zoe plays, even though that doesn't break his top 10 just yet. Some very good Rise plays that he's played since, you know, the dawn of time almost in his career so far. So maybe it is just a sentimental value, which I could see. And if you're right, if that is something that is just very sentimental to him, something that he thinks really reflects his career, then it could be very good to come out. I just think that when you think about who you're trying to sell it to as well, because this is eventually just going to come out, how many skins can you sell of this Tristana? Obviously, hardcore people with money will be able to buy it, but can you get any of the people that maybe don't really have the means to dish out on it, try to get it or not? And I don't think Tristana would be if you're on the fence about it, I'm going to definitely buy it.
Yeah, especially if you're a mid laner too. And I mean, even as an AD carry, it's not one of the more played ADCs that we see just kind of around, even in solo queue. Like it's played more in solo queue than it is in pro play for sure, but still, I don't think it's one of the more like most played ADCs in the game. But regardless, like you said, if it's Cap's decision, then I'm totally cool with it, obviously.
Now, with all the buffs that they just had going into 26.16, you know, all the mages that they're trying to nerf and all the AD carries that they're trying to buff, Tristana has risen a little bit in solo queue right now, and maybe this is a little bit of a tweak behind it. She's had some pretty decent changes to her MR, so maybe with these MR buffs that they have for AD carries right now, maybe we will see her in the mid lane a little bit more, and maybe that could be a little bit tied to this
You know
Caps
she's
coming
gonna
out.
be getting too.
Oh yeah,
she's gonna be getting too dope
100%.
if this
They
immortalized.
definitely want to sell it,
out. Yeah.
but it could be we see that resurgence. So like, oh, I got a little bit more MF buffs on Tristana right now. Let me head back to the mid lane a little bit, see what damage I can do, and we're gonna see a whole meta shift. May just go back to bottom, but all AD carries go back to mid now.
Yeah, exactly. This is your new home.
On that note, though, were there any players that you think from EU that may have missed out on this for the first time?
Personally, I think there's some players maybe you could make an argument for, but I don't think there's any that can clear Caps. I think when you're looking at the first inductee from this region, you have to go with the player that has given the biggest impact and the most to that scene, and it's unquestionably Caps, in my opinion, just for his longevity, the trophies that he's brought. And I also, I think back to, people talking about, well, Fnatic won a world championship at the first season. It's like, we didn't even know what the game was back then. It didn't develop into some crazy meta that it is now, where everything's set in stone and you have to be mechanically better than everybody. So I think that's where Caps has just played in a much more developed league, developed time, where he's just mechanically and also with his achievements that he's gotten for multiple teams, he has to be the pick in my opinion.
You don't speak about League without Caps at this point, and he's done very well as he's at points been called baby faker, and now he's matured into just this role that can carry EU into all these winning situations. He looks really good even right now heading into the later parts of the LEC. Looks really good. The only thing, my question is now, if they do decide to move to NA, LCS Legends or whatever you have it, the biggest name that probably comes to most people's head is going to be Doublelift and/or Bjergsen. So are we just going to follow this cycle of ADC and mid laners? Who do you think could potentially break this cycle and we see a jungle, a support, and/or a top laner?
Yeah, for me, I think the jungle maybe is the next one that would stand out, just because when I think of when you think of players that get the glory, it's always your carries. And I think jungler kind of fits into that too, because it's such a playmaking role. It's kind of the same thing when you think about your playmakers in regular sports, for example, a football example. The quarterback, the wide receiver, all those guys, they get the glory, but it's really the linemen who put in the dirty work to make the plays all work. And I think that's the same in League, where you have supports and top laners. They're not normally praised as oh, they changed the whole game, they carried everybody, but they're just as important as everybody else, but they just don't get the glory. And I think that's unfortunately going to translate over into who gets these awards in the beginning stages, especially for your perks, for example. He could be another person that gets it. Bjergsen, obviously, in NA, and all of these people that are getting the Hall of Legends, it's going to be your traditional carries for most of these games, and unfortunately, that's usually ADC or mid. So,
who do you want, though, outside of the ADC or mid role? Who do you think is most deserving, or would you want to see from one of the 3 remaining roles right now?
I don't know, to be honest. I think if we're talking about NA, I would like to see maybe, if we go support realm, I personally would like to see maybe an Afro move or an X-Special. I think both of those were good shouts from back in the day. They don't have the longevity, but I also don't think there's really many true North American supports that have that longevity and that resume as well, just because of the imports that we've had so much in the last few years. I think that hurts us.
Do you think we can claim Core as our own right now?
That's what I was
Has he been here long enough to claim? Because, I mean, he, even right now, at his age, is just completely running one of the best, if not tied with maybe Isles in this current season. But if you think of his whole entire LCS journey after he came over from Korea, he's been so good in the LCS. And kind of at this point, we do kind of claim him. He does have the residency here, but it is kind of hard because then you're just thinking back to his SKT days as well.
And it kind of, I mean, if you bring up that too, you have to bring in that same conversation with Bjergsen as well, because it's not like he started in the LCS and spent his whole career there. It's he came over from EU, and obviously he's been one of our best players of all time. But it's kind of where do you draw that line of we don't have those Caps, we don't have those Fakers, we don't have those Uzis that started here, made this entire scene so great. It's we import players to be great, but.
And the big one for me when it comes to NA is the Doublelift versus Sneaky a little bit, because when you take a look at domestically, if you look at LCS, it is Doublelift. He's won, I think, 8 domestic titles, the most in NA history. But then you look at Sneaky, who consistently always made Worlds throughout his entire career. He's, made it out of group stage multiple times. Has probably had one of the best, true NA talents that came from NA in making all these international events. And how do you weigh those together? Do we look at doubles domestic titles? Do we look at sneaky for international? Like, how do we draw that line? Because both of them could do very well.
Yeah.
Obviously, both of them could sell skins very well when you take a look at it. Obviously, maybe get a Sivir skin. Finally get the sneaky Sivir skin outside just the pizza one, but then Doublelift as well. Just completely great player, and even is still now doing things for the League community, hosting tournaments and, you know, putting all his effort into creating content. So it'd be really interesting, but of course that kind of stays within that realm of AD carries and mid laners, and so.
Yeah, and I do think we'll be seeing that for the foreseeable future, the next couple of years. I think, you know, it's going to be a little bit of time till we see maybe a top laner or a jungler get their deserving praise.
I want Peanut. I'll just say it. I want Peanut. I want him jungle. I won't buy the skin, but I just want to see him introduced into
get his flowers.
Yeah, we'll get his flowers. It'd be really nice. And, you know, he had a really long career before going out and joining for his service. So we'll have to see. But I think it's really cool. Caps, if it is everything that will be coming out for him, I think the data mine or people that were leaking said is potentially the 17th that we'll see the information. So a couple more days before we get that final announcement on whether or not Riot decides to push it earlier or later. We'll have to see. But that is what we have for now. We are going to move on, though. We are going to talk about the LCS. Don't worry, NA fans. We are still here for you. And we actually had a pretty interesting weekend, I would say. We saw some lows and highs from a lot of teams. And I believe we're going to start out with that C9 match that kicked off. And C9 is just a really weird team right now. I'm not going to lie. They have some very high highs, but their lows are losing to teams that they shouldn't be losing to right now.
Yeah, and it was really weird, too, the contrast in these games. Like Game 1 and Game 3, when C9 won, they kind of just like ran over them. And then through Game 2, it was like a crazy back and forth 40 minutes where there was throws left and right, but they couldn't get the job done. And I'm not really sure, like you said, it's just a weird team right now. It's a weird spot to be in, especially coming from a team that, you know, was so dominant in regular seasons in both the lock-in and also spring split, to now, like, we're not necessarily as dominant as we were, but I do think that this team maybe has more potential in the long run. So it's just kind of a weird contrast of, like, you know, do you take the dominance in the regular season but then fall off in the pressure moments, or do we go with this team who can hopefully bring us back to the promised land? But who knows?
I think with this one, it kind of saw in this series what we were talking about, like earlier on when we were doing queued ups and everything like that. Like, we want to see the mid lane and the AD carry pop off more to relieve some of the pressure on Thanatos. And that's what we saw in this series. Tactical and Loki both popped off in the games that they won. And that's the Loki we remember from last year, and the Tactical that we saw all his good plays from back on TSM, etc., moving back into Tier 1 this year. And that's kind of what they needed. And if they're going to stick with this 5-man squad, despite having a 7-man roster, is what those two need to do. Now, on the opposite end, again, the person we've been kind of harping on a lot is Blabber. And Blabber still, when he's having like the winning games, he's doing okay, but not really popping off. But when they're losing, he seems to be almost at the core of that happening. That game 2 was just bad from him.
Yeah, 100%. And he was just a little bit, he was pretty useless on the Skarner. Like, it's a champion where you just obviously build tank. He's got utility, but it looked like he was just kind of off with the engages that he wanted to pull, and the team being able to capitalize on that engage. He would kind of go in by himself, get called out, and just, he looked really lost on that champion. And like you said, it's kind of been an ongoing issue for Blabber in the last few weeks. I would say in the other splits, he actually played pretty well. It wasn't like the final form Blabber that we've seen before, but it wasn't bad. But this season seems to have really hit him differently, and I don't know what it is, but he definitely has got to get back on his game.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Again, maybe this could be the blessing in disguise. They kind of have a rocky start in the regular season, but maybe they'll make Worlds now because of it, and their postseason will be much better. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next match, which I believe was that Sentinels versus Shopify Rebellion. This one was the breakout game that was much needed for Shopify. I think we were saying that Shopify needs that win. They need to find a way to get into this middle of the pack. And Sentinels was the team that they could do it against. Game 1 kind of looked like normal Shopify. Games 2 and 3 looked much better, especially Fudge in game number 2.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that came out of this game, or this series for me, is like Fudge played really well. Now, he's playing against Impact, who's obviously been criticized as well. Maybe he's a little bit past his time, so this was Fudge's opportunity to kind of win that lane. But that's exactly what he did, and we haven't seen Fudge do that much at all in the last really couple years. But yeah, really, really strong series from him, and Shopify get a much-needed win against a pretty good team as well. I mean, Sentinels is a team that has the capability to be really good, but is obviously one of our EWC representatives, so it was a good win for them.
And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but again, I think in order for them to really move up to that next level, to beat like either the FlyQuest at this point or C9, which kind of seems to be in that third, fourth position, kind of back and forth, is Zini has to like start showing up. And again, we've seen him on these 3 champs that we always see him on. Again, it's the Galio, the Anivia, and the Annie. It's just super, super safe picks, and maybe they're just trying to get him reps in so that he can eventually have a pop-off day, but it's just not showing up right now.
And the big thing for me, too, is like, well, I mean, we've talked about it on a previous episode of like looking at Saint, for example, the champions he plays and the like carry potential that he has with those champions. It's almost like you said they want to give Zini these safe picks to almost like put a collar on him to be like, look, you're not going to throw our games. Just pick these champions and we'll be good. But I think to gain confidence to actually be able to pop off in those games, he needs to be given like trial by fire. You need to play these games. Yeah, maybe you play in a Kali and maybe you get stomped for a couple games, but eventually he's a good enough player to where he can get the confidence to make some plays and, you know, carry a game. But I just think that with the player that he was hyped up to be coming into the league, seeing him on picks like this constantly over and over and over again is not a good sign for me.
No, I will have to say though, Zeyzal has looked really good.
Yep.
Definitely, as we said, it's not going to be this pick that dramatically changes the course of the team. The team has to, as a whole, get better, and especially now that they have Fudge maybe popping off, Contracts is doing well, he's, you know, doing about normal. Zeyzal is bringing that veteran voice. They need the mid lane to kind of just move up on that level. I think they do. They could maybe try to make a run like they did last year into those top positions. Right now, I think they'll kind of falter in the 4th, 5th position. Make playoffs, but not really do much if they get there. So it'll be interesting to see. But as of right now, it is cool that they are leveling up a little bit.
Yeah, and I like the shout out that you gave to Contracts as well. I think he's another player that we were critical of, him and Fudge, really at the end of last split, the spring split. But I think Contracts has really stepped up his game so far through this summer split. So good to see that. They definitely need him.
Yeah, and nothing against B-Boy. We're not leaving him out because he's doing bad. He's just been a consistent force that has, you know, done his job.
Yeah, he's always going to be good.
Once he's been there, he doesn't really need a shout out. It's the other ones that we're kind of looking to make sure that they catch up to him, and he's been doing well. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Lion, Armeo's potential last series. They played against Dignitas, which was Dardoch's first series back in a long time. Dardoch looked really good in game number 1. They had a good game plan going in to kind of catch out Lion on rotation, get those 2v1 situations out, get him fed early. But unfortunately, it's just one of those. He hasn't been on the team that long, so you could see it falter in that mid game a little bit, where they, you know, tried to get a little bit overzealous, chasing after some kills that probably they couldn't get, and then Lion's experience came in where they have Saint, they have Berserker. Those two didn't fall behind and eventually just took over the game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just a tough week 1 for Dardoch. I mean, coming in, playing against the clear-cut best team in the region, it's like kind of doomed from the start. Like, he could play as good as he possibly could play, and they're probably going to get gapped in every other lane because they're playing Lion. So it's like kind of a doomed situation to be in. I think there was bright moments, so probably not much negative taken from this game as far as like after they sit back and they're VOD reviewing and stuff. Obviously, they're going to be critiquing a lot of their plays negatively, but when they look at the grand scheme of things, I'm sure they were looking at it like this would be a miracle game if we won straight up. So I think there's still some positive light coming in the future for this team with the implementation of him.
I mean, I really liked this Lee Sin. He was hitting a lot. Again, it's just I think there was like one near Nash where he ended up kind of over chasing past the Swain, and Swain's just, you know, doing Swain things and zoning everyone else out, so they're able to get the kill onto the Lee Sin and then move on to the rest of the team afterwards, which kind of flipped the script a little bit for it. After that, they get a little overzealous. Game 2, of course, was just Lion. But Armeo, it's kind of a clash of the old school there. Dardoch versus Armeo. What year is it? Is what they were putting up on the LCS. And it was kind of fun to watch, though. And once again, we have Armeo getting 3 straight wins in the LCS. Potentially his last game, because I think he wants to go back to his finished education and everything. So right now, we don't know if Inspired is coming back or not yet. In one of the interviews that they had with their head coach, they said that he may be potential another week or 2 out. They're not too sure yet. They haven't made any announcement. So right now I'm going to keep it as he's not here yet. I'm pretty sure they would announce that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And again, their upcoming week isn't too bad for them either. So they could maybe even get a 4th win. The question now is whether or not Armeo plays, Inspired plays, or they have to find a completely new jungler for week number 4.
Yeah, Helmea's like, dude, I signed up for classes. Like, I cannot be there for this game. I already told you. I don't know what's going on with Inspired, but, like, somebody's got to play. But shout out to Armeo as well. It's like he came in and they won these 3 games. Obviously, talented team, but he played really, really well, too. So
you imagine, you know, this may be your final stint in the LCS, right? And you're just wanting to go focus on education. And you're just like, Yeah, dude, I just got 3 with the best team in the NA at the time, and I'm bouncing. That's just 100% win rate online right now. That'd be such a good way to bow out. And honestly, as you said, like him coming in and doing this, like probably on super short notice, was amazing. You know, the stat lines he has coming out of it. So, you know, big ups to him on that one.
100%.
Last game though, Team Liquid versus FlyQuest. FlyQuest, we were saying that this could be a good series for them to win, but man, Team Liquid has just completely leveled up. This team they went through their trial of fire through splits 1 and 2. They get to MSI, unfortunately lose to T1. From there, I don't know, they've just looked so good.
100%. They've taken off since then, and the player that I look at the most is the player we talked about needed to step up, and it's Quid. Quid is leveled up in the mid lane, and we're seeing that kind of form that we saw him on last year at the end with 100 Thieves and running through Worlds, where he was playing really, really good. He's back to that form now after a little bit of a slump earlier in this year. And the rest of the team, there's no question of what they can do. But that mid laner, you need to be a really, really big presence around the map, winning that lane if you can. And he's done that a lot recently. So I think this team looks poised for a really, really good performance for the rest of the year.
Right now, I am really looking forward to it, and I hope Inspired is back before they do play Liquid, because I think this can be a really good clash and finally one of those matches that we have thinking that, yes, we can finally get the definitive who is the best in the LCS, potentially hitting to postseason and then into Worlds. But again, this also gives me hope that we could send 2 good teams to Worlds this year and have teams that could make runs if one does end up having a slump. We have another one that can pick up the slack. Last year, it was pretty much just all FlyQuest. FlyQuest is our hopes and dreams. They unfortunately faltered. We had, at the time, 100 Thieves.
Making a miracle run.
Yeah, they tried to make the miracle run. They had their 1 win versus an Eastern team, and it was like, yes. But then they, you know, that was the 100 Thieves, and their luck kind of ran out at the end there. But as you said, this game just really good. Unfortunately, once again, Gakos just, he has his highs, he has his lows. Once he finds a happy medium, I think this team will be really good. Unfortunately, just super gapped in this one. That top lane, which I don't know, kind of felt like it set the whole tone for the series, where they tried to get the gank onto Morgan in the top lane, and he ends up getting that kill on.
Turned it around.
Yeah, after turning it around. It's just one of those kind of, oh man, it just kind of sucks. You know, they weren't able to get it. Griffin does what Griffin does. He's super aggressive. He wants to get that kill. Unfortunately, he missed the Pantheon Q at the end, which could have secured it, and then the kill goes up. After that is kind of faltered for the rest of the series for the rest of FlyQuest. Again, I don't know what it was. I didn't mind the Jhin pick, but Masu and Jhin just don't really seem to click too much.
Yeah, and he didn't mesh on the Yunara either. In the Yunara game, too, it was like a stomp fest. But I wanted to shout out Morgan as well. I think he's very, very similar to Quid, a player that came in with a lot of hype, and he didn't really play good at the start of this year. He was trying to find his form, like what champions he wanted to play, how he was going to fit into this team. And it seems like this split, he's really, really found that. And if they can have him play as well as he did in this series, I think that makes him even more dominant. So
I really want to see it. And again, I'm glad to see Jan on those AD carries. He's really good on the AD carries. Get the mages out for a little bit. Let him play these, you know, fun champions that you can get in, get the damage in, and get out. Really cool to see. But we'll go ahead and take a look at those standings. So again, we do have Lion and Team Liquid sitting in first with 3 wins apiece. But that big one right there is Shopify moving up into that 3rd, 4th position with C9, 2-1. Big glow up by them right now. FlyQuest, a little bit unlucky. You have to play Lion and you have to play Team Liquid in your first 3 weeks. Yeah. A little bit rough.
They'll be back. They'll rise up the leaderboard again.
I think once they find their footing a little bit in this split, they'll do well. Let's see what they do in postseason. Definitely their biggest enemies right now, probably RC9. So we'll have to see how they face against them. But taking a look at week number 4, we do have some pretty good matches that will be coming up. DSG versus Team Liquid. I think that's going to be a stomp.
Yeah, I think it would most likely be a stomp as well, unless DSG is able to pull off some crazy stuff. Team Liquid's just looking too good right now.
But the one game I was looking forward to is this Dignitas versus Shopify. Both teams kind of on the up and up, as we said, with Dardoch playing as well as he did. I could see them winning that game versus a team like Shopify if they get that 5K goal lead once again. You're not going to fall into that trap that Lion's going to set for you. So this is a big one. But again, for Shopify, if they can win this match, it is a real big confidence booster.
Yeah, 100%. They'll be 3-1 after 4 weeks, which is great. You would not expect that from Shopify. Now, don't look at the teams they've played, maybe. But regardless, it's a good record and a good spot to be at that point in the series. So I think it's an exciting matchup. Like you said, Dig definitely has the potential to come out and beat them if Shopify is not on top of their game. And then, yeah, it should be. The one I'm looking forward to, though, the most is your beloved FlyQuest and C9, because that's another one. You never know what you're going to get from C9. FlyQuest show up, that could be a big win for them to bounce back.
Also, and with C9 dropping these kind of random games to random teams, you know, at the bottom, this is definitely a time where C9 can get their revenge against, FlyQuest can get their revenge against C9, maybe start getting to play for that top 4 when it comes time for postseason, because it's not the longest of splits right now. Every win is going to start mattering from here on out for teams like C9 and FlyQuest. So whoever wins this one probably is going to be sitting pretty in that top 4 as we head into the postseason. And then last but not least will be that Lion versus Sentinels game. And right now, I guess the biggest question for this one is who will be playing jungle in this matchup right now?
That is the biggest question, but in my opinion, I don't think it matters too much. I think Lion's just going to roll over Sentinels. I think, you know, Sentinels is another team that, like we said, could show up and beat anybody, but could also lose to Shopify like they did last week. So I think if that team shows up, it'll be an easy rollover. But if they level up and show up like they have been at like EWC and stuff like that, who knows? They can maybe give them a run for their money. But
I guess it's on Saint also to not get food poisoning the day before the match, because he did have food poisoning last week heading into their match. So maybe that's why he wasn't playing as well as he did in game 1. But as you said, I think they can maybe get whoever and just rely on the rest of the 4 to kind of carry them into this one. So we'll have to see. But again, we have some of our key matchups for that week. Mine, of course, is going to be the Dignitas versus Shopify Rebellion. It looks like for Davis is FlyQuest versus C9. So make sure you check out both of those games this weekend. We'll be back next time with more Daily Rift Herald. We'll see you all soon.